Hello everyone, my name is Milla and today we're going to be concluding 2015 by discussing the best books I've read this year. So I organized this video kind of strangely and organized my favorite books into several categories. First is my favorite sci-fi slash fantasy novels, which is going to be my top 5, which I'm actually happy I narrowed it down that much because that's primarily all that I read is sci-fi and fantasy. Followed by 2 other categories, contemporary slash realistic fiction and classics, which I narrowed down to a top 1 primarily because I only read 3 classics this year, but normally I wouldn't read any classics, so hey, that's an improvement. And then I did like overall general categories such as favorite cover art slash jacket or just book art in general. My favorite new author. First of all, I read a total of 46 books in the year 2015. My goal in 2015 was to read 60 books, which I thought was kind of ambitious, but still I managed to read 46 books in the year 2015, which I'm actually very proud of. I know there are some of you out who have read almost 200 books and I applaud you, but I'm proud of the 46 books I've read because they have been amazing. Surprisingly, I didn't have to think too hard about narrowing down my favorites for any genre in particular. If you read a book where you can't stop thinking about the world and characters even days, months, or hours after you've put it down, then you know you've read a good book. And these books are just ones that have stuck in my mind and kept me thinking. So the first category that I wanted to talk about was sci-fi slash fantasy. Like I said before, this is primarily all that I read, and for this category I'll save the best for last. Okay, so number 5 is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This book was phenomenal. I also read Red Rising, which is the first book in the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown, and that was also phenomenal, but this book just topped it all off, and I can't wait to see what Pierce Brown has in store for ending this trilogy because so much has happened. This book has blown my mind. There was so much going on in Red Rising that my mind had trouble processing it all, and then the second book, this book, Golden Sun, just topped it all off and blew my mind even more. And I didn't even think that was possible, but it just showed how much thought is put into this world, and I really admire writing like that and world building, how authors can just like write and make these complex worlds that blow my mind. I admire authors like this who can write worlds so complex it blows the reader's mind. And just when you think you know everything there is to know about the world, the author reveals that there's so much more to it. And I absolutely love that about this book. This book, if I had to describe it in 2 words, would be a space tragedy. Also, there is so much that happened in this book. It left me in tears, it had me laughing, mostly in tears. And it was full of twists and turns along the way, but mainly it was the world. Number 4 on my list is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. If you guys haven't read a Rainbow Rowell book, then you guys are missing out. Normally she writes contemporary books, but Carry On is a fantasy book, kind of ties into her contemporary book Fangirl. Her writing in this book, like all her books, is quirky. The characters in this book are the most realistic and dynamic characters I've ever read. Number 3 is Cress by Marissa Meyer. The reason why I put this as number 3 is because of the characters. I also put Carry On in here because of Rainbow Rowell's writing style and characters, but in the Lunar Chronicles, the characters aren't as complex and dynamic, but they are just so lovable and fun. And the plotline in these books is just fast-paced and epic. These books have an amazing concept. These books take traditional fairy tales and Marissa Meyer puts a twist on them and puts them into this dystopian, fantasy, science fiction-esque kind of thing, which is just an amazing concept. The plotline to this book is adventurous, epic, and fast-paced, and these books give me so many feels. I'm just starting winter now, and it's all coming back. So much has happened in these books, and even though they're pretty chunky books, they just fly by so fast. I mean, I read Cress in like 2 days. Number 2 is A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria Schwab. This is actually the first Victoria Schwab book I've read, and let me just tell you, her writing is phenomenal. And first of all, this book has like the most unique concept I've ever read. There are these different dimensions, different Londons. Some of them have magic, some of them don't have magic. Kel is able to travel between these different dimensions, and he's not supposed to take anything from there, but he finds himself taking little artifacts or trinkets from the different worlds that he can never be a part of, to kind of learn from them and also show them to different rulers of the different Londons to prove that other worlds do exist. And it's so interesting as Kel travels between the different worlds to see how these different Londons are different from another, like the ones with magic and the ones without magic, and just like the cultural differences, the different languages in them. You could see that Victoria Schwab put so much thought into this novel, and it just shines through. Also, the writing is phenomenal. It's gripping and poetic. In this book, though it may be slow at first, it definitely draws you in. And Kel's cape is, I swear, it's the coolest thing. It changes forms and there's hidden pockets. I swear it's much cooler than I'm making it sound. Kel wore a very peculiar coat. It neither had one side, which would be conventional, nor two, which would be unexpected, but several, which was, of course, impossible. My favorite sci-fi/fantasy book of this year, if you guys didn't guess by now, is Cleanish Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I know, big shocker. From the very first book, Throne of Glass, the characters won me over, and I couldn't stop thinking about the world. I read the book when it first came out in 2012, and it just blew my mind. Now that I've read Sarah J. Maas's other books, it may not have been the best written and the plot may not have been as gripping, but it started this whole world for me, and it made me love reading so much more. I stayed up late reading these books, crying and laughing with these characters and just wanting the best for them. And watching them go through all these things, watching their journey, has just been so emotional and absolutely amazing. I think we've all read books like this, ones that we can't stop thinking about. A favorite series, ones that we may or may not have grown up with. For some that might be Harry Potter, for some that might be Percy Jackson, or The Mortal Instruments. For me that happens to be Throne of Glass. Queen of Shadows is the 4th book, and there are going to be 6 books in the series, which I'm so excited about yet so scared because there's only 2 books left and so much can happen, and Sarah is just an amazing writer. She definitely has a unique voice. Her plot lines are epic. There's a perfect mix of romance and action. And the characters have their own unique, distinct voices. Her writing is just phenomenal. It's poetic and epic and it gives me goosebumps. Sarah J. Maas is the kind of author that I admire and the kind of author that I want to be. The next category that I'm going to be talking about is contemporary/realistic fiction, and I have a top 2 for this category. Number 2 is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. At first I wasn't a huge fan of this book just because of the concept, but this book really grew on me. It's absolutely hilarious and awkward, and I love contemporary books like this. Ones that are cute and funny, that are so realistic you can picture yourself in the main character's shoes. Like you live through their mistakes and successes. The characters in this book are just so fun and quirky, and everything they do is embarrassing. The main character, Larjean, has an unhealthy habit of embarrassing herself, which makes this book just that much more funny and that much more fun. Also, her little sister Kitty is one of the sassiest characters I've ever read. Another reason that I love this book so much is the relationships between each of the characters. Not just romantic relationships, but also family relationships. I love the relationship between Larjean and her sisters. It reminds me of the relationship between me and my sister and my family, which is really awesome to find in a book. My favorite realistic fiction/contemporary book of this year is one that I know I'm not alone in loving, and that's I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. I think it's best if you go into this book not knowing too much about it. That's the way I started reading this book, was not knowing anything about it, and I find that the perfect way to start a book. Just any book in general. I don't really like reading the synopsis. As you guys may know, I don't really like reading the synopsis. I just like going into a book, discovering the story as the characters go along, because a lot of times the synopsis gives away big chunks of the story that try to drag you in, but I don't know, I like being surprised about it, because like even if you look at the back of Throne of Glass, it says two men love her, the whole land fears her, only she can save them all. Obviously that gives away a big chunk of the story, and I don't really like knowing that much going into a book. Going into I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, other than there were twins, and that's about it. And I don't really want to tell you what it's about. I mean, if you really want to know, you can go look it up on Goodreads or something. This book is deep. It took me a while to get into it because of how deep it was. The characters in this book really struggle, and you can't help but root for them. And their story is just so realistic and tragic at the same time. At times I wish that I could pull these characters from the book and just give them a hug and cheer them up or something. I don't know, their lives. It's painful to watch, but yet the writing and the story is just so beautiful. And I really love the way this book was written. The third category that I want to discuss is classics. Like I said, I only read 3 classics, so it wasn't that hard to pick a favorite. But my favorite classic that I've read this year is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. You guys have probably heard of Mice and Men, and you've also probably heard about how it ends, and that may prejudice you before you go into this book. Like, I knew how it ended before I started reading this book. I was spoiled for it. But this book kept me thinking. This year I read this book for school, and when you read a book for school, you're kind of like, I don't want to read this. I'd rather read something epic like Throne of Glass. And I went into that attitude with really, really low expectations, but this book, it kept me thinking, and the characters drew me in, and it made me feel for them so much. And the only way that I could describe this book to you is it's a tragedy. Very rare that I find myself drawn in by classics. This book did. It drew me in and it kept me thinking. And it's books like that I want to continue reading. Fourth category is cover art / jacket design. Now I was able to pick a top 3, though there are some pretty amazing covers. One of my favorite covers definitely has to be These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This cover portrays the book so well. As you can see, it's a space tragedy, but this cover just conveys so much about the story, and the color scheme is really what drew me into it, and the cover is what made me want to read this book. The number 1 and number 2 of this category is really just like the jacket art and the covers. I don't even know if you call it jacket art. Not jacket art. Okay, let me just put it this way. These books look fantastic naked. And that's the Lunar Chronicles. I only have 2 of these books in hardback, and that's Fairest and Winter. And like, if you look at Fairest, look at this. That's freaking gorgeous. Now what I'm wondering is, do all the Lunar Chronicles books have art like this in them? Like here, you have this gorgeous palace. I swear, if all the Lunar Chronicles books have art like this in them, I'm gonna buy them all in hardback. And then with Winter, I believe this is only at Target, but you have all this fan art inside, which is, oh, it's so freaking adorable. And finally, my favorite covers ever would have to be the Throne of Glass series. That's too many books to pick up, so I'm just going to put the covers right here. As you can probably see, they're freaking gorgeous. And yes, the books are as badass as the cover art is. And the next category I have is my favorite new author, and that would have to be Victoria Schwab. I read 3 of her books this year, The Archive, The Unbound, and A Darker Shade of Magic. And what I really admire about her books is her writing style. Her books just have such unique concepts, and her writing has like this, it has like this certain texture. She has such a distinct writing voice, and it's just poetic and epic. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes my favorite books of 2015. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to follow me elsewhere, I have Twitter and Instagram at MillaG2222, and I also have Snapchat at BlueCarew1234. Bye if you get that reference. If not, go read Daughter Smoking Bone anyway. And then I also have Goodreads and Pinterest at MillaGab99. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and in the comments below, let me know your favorite book of 2015. What book made your year? But yes, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! And something super exciting has just happened. I got new bookshelves! Like a dream come true! I'm actually waiting for New Year. It's 11:15 right now, and what I'm trying to do is just keep making videos until it's midnight. Hello everyone, my name is Milla, and welcome back, and welcome to the new year. Happy New Year! Happy... fourth category... This isn't 4. If you hear this weird chewing noise, it's my dog. Gracie, Gracie, look at me. What are you doing? What do you think about that, Gracie? That's what I thought.